Thank you, Madam Deputy President, and it's my great honour to have the opportunity to respond to Senator Wong's take note. And if we needed any more evidence at all that the Labor Party, which she represents in this chamber, has no plan whatsoever to stimulate investment, to stimulate growth, to create jobs and to increase wages, then that speech was evidence of it. It contained no ideas, it contained no proposals, it contained no measures from the alternative government of Australia. All it contained was rhetoric and criticism and complaint. There was not one constructive suggestion or proposal anywhere in that speech. It contained a number of what I would characterise as intellectual errors and sloppiness that I wouldn't expect to see of someone of the stature of the Leader of Opposition in the Senate, herself a former Finance Minister. I particularly appreciated the emphasis that Senator Wong has placed on this supposed letter from the Business Council of Australia and how they have seized upon this as evidence that if company tax cuts are cut in Australia, there will be no increased investment, there will be no increased employment, there will be no increased wages, there will be no increased tax revenue. As Senator Wong would know well from her time as Finance Minister, businesses don't pay taxes in this country as part of some kind of bargain, as she characterised it, or because they've signed a letter to the Senate crossbench or anyone else for that matter. They pay tax because they are legally required to. And they pay tax when they make profit. And anything that we can do to ensure that business is making a profit and therefore paying tax is a very prudent and sensible thing to do. And that's exactly what the government's enterprise tax plan does. It will stimulate investment by increasing the return on that investment and encourage investors, both domestic and foreign, to invest more of their scarce capital here in Australia as opposed to the other places in the world where they could invest it by guaranteeing them a better return on that investment. They won't be investing because of the goodwill. They won't be investing because they love Australia or our weather or our food or our furry animals. They'll be investing because they'll be able to get a better return than they once were, and they'll be able to get a better return here relative to the alternative places where they could invest elsewhere in this country. The word backflip is often abused in political commentary. Usually the word backflip is applied to a party or a person who changes their position on something. But of course, when you do a backflip, what you're doing is flipping around and falling exactly where you were before. And in a funny way, that's actually what the Labor opposition has done this week. Because we know, as Senator Cormann quoted throughout question time today, Senator Wong, the Shadow Treasurer, the Leader of the Opposition, Mr Shorten, have all previously in the past been on the record very eloquently supporting the case for business tax cuts in this country. They were then dragged, perhaps by the Greens or others, to opposing that position. And now we've seen this week that they're on the way back to supporting them again. Mr Shorten revealed this week that, in fact, they may support the tax cuts that have already been legislated for small and medium-sized enterprises up to $50 million in revenue. So the backflip completed this week by the opposition is in fact a real backflip indeed. They are back to a position that they used to hold a couple of years ago. It's good progress. I welcome it. There's only a little bit further for you to go. Keep heading down the path that you're on. Concede the argument, as you clearly have, that tax cuts for small and medium enterprise businesses are a good thing and the right thing to support, and follow that position to its logical conclusion. Realise that supporting tax cuts for businesses over $50 million in revenue will have the same beneficial impact as cutting taxes for businesses under $50 million in revenue. In fact, as some economists argue, there is reason to believe that the beneficial impact of cutting taxes for businesses over $50 million in revenue may in fact be larger than the benefit from cutting it for small and medium-sized businesses, though no doubt it will be positive for both. So I hope this sign this week is that the opposition is on a positive trajectory, a sensible trajectory. I hope they're reconsidering their previous populist opposition to company tax cuts. I hope they are in fact doing a real backflip to the position that they all held not that long ago, as much as it might trouble some on their Senate benches, Senator Cameron and Senator Carr included, but their own colleagues have very eloquently supported the case for business tax cuts in the past. I hope we will again see them do so. There's a ray of hope that we've seen this week. There is in fact light at the end of the tunnel. We may soon be able to see a much more sensible business tax cut policy from the opposition.